Welcome to part 2 of our basic soldered pendants video. We will be making this large pendant in this video. For this piece I am going to be using the 5mm copper foil tape and just going to wrap it completely around the stone with a little bit of an overlap. Let's start at one end. I'm going to go just around the edge of it, or the very tip of it, and start wrapping it the other direction. Okay, whenever it's almost completely wrapped, I'll bend this end down because I'm going to come up and overlap that. Just want to make sure my edges are even where I overlap. And I'm going to take it up around the top and down a little bit. Once it's completely wrapped, I want to start pushing all the edges down. The front side first, and then start pushing them in on the back. After it's tight, then I want to go back in and smooth it out even more with, this is just a plastic knife, smoothing it out. I go along the edge and then go to the back side and just push it all in. Make it tight up against the stone and it's as smooth as possible. I'm going to be using solder pellets with this particular project. I now have the stone completely wrapped and I've got it sitting in a clamp. I could just use my pliers, but this is a little bit easier because I don't have to keep holding on to the edges of this, whereas the pliers I have to keep it tight. So I'm just going to go ahead and add some flux. I'm going to do half of it at a time. Just want to make sure you cover all of the copper. Once I have my flux on, I am going to make sure my iron is clean. Just a damp cloth and steel wool. And I am just going to load my soldering iron up. A little bit of solder. And I'm just going to start brushing it onto the foil. Okay, I have the one side done. I'm just going to add more flux to this other side. If you have some really sharp points, the foil is going to be a little bit heavy and a little bit harder to get in those areas. You just keep brushing it on until you get it completely covered. And if you have to, you can just take your iron without any solder on it and come back over and smooth it out. I'm going to go ahead and solder the jump ring onto this piece, and I'm using a third hand. I am just going to butt the stone up against the jump ring. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of flux. I'm actually going to be using a torch and some solder wire that already has flux in it, but the extra flux will allow it to flow a little bit better and possibly give me a better connection. And it is possible to solder a jump ring on with a soldering iron, but I found this to be the easiest method. So I'll go ahead and turn my torch on and heat up the area. Now that I have the jump ring attached, I am finished with this piece. If my edges are a little bit rough, I can go in with some steel wool and smooth it out a little bit. Before I put my soldering iron away, I want to clean it a little bit. Just want to use a little bit of steel wool to get it good and clean. Wipe it with my damp cloth, and I want to store it with as much solder on it as I can get. Now that the tip has some solder on it, I'm just going to turn it off, unplug it, let it cool before I put it away. Whenever I get it back out, I will clean that solder off and start with some fresh solder. Thanks for watching our basic soldered pendant video. Watch for more of our videos. If you have problems with the stone moving when you add an embellishment or a jump ring, you can lay out some Play-Doh to lay the stone in, or use a J-board or even a wet floral board. To see how to do that, just view Soldering Made Easy video 1.